Serious? What is the story of death in your school? Hit by a student in a car in the car park. Was a dark time for the school, as it wasn't the driver's fault as the kid ran out in front and the driver was only doing 5 miles per hour, but he hit the kid who then hit his temple on a curb. There was a witch hunt for the driver in school until they released the video footage from one of the security cameras that basically absolved him. Imagine if there were no cameras. That would have been 2 lives ruined. Honestly, I suspect that kid might already be scarred for life. He was unintentionally involved in such a sad, serious event. Back in high school, a student died unexpectedly in his sleep. Half a year later, the same thing happened to a teacher. And one of my former college classmates died in a car accident 2 years ago. Due to what did he die in his sleep? Cardiac arrest. He had an undetected heart rhythm disorder if I recall correctly. Just speculation, but I personally know someone who died of sudden adult death. The adult version of SID. It essentially meant his heart stopped and he stopped breathing. No cause found other than that. It's surprisingly common and extremely hard for the family and friends to come to terms with. I'm not going to lie, I was happier not knowing that sudden adult death was a thing. So was I. You're still more likely to get killed by a car though, if that helps. Car accident killing 4 kids from my school. They were speeding and crashed into someone else. Their car flew down a bank and ended up decapitating one kid at the back. Wasn't wearing his seatbelt. A second car was following them with their friends. They stopped and tried to help, but there was nothing to do. One kid was a teacher's kid. The entire school took a day off to go to their funerals. A kid in my class died in a quad bike accident. He used to race and decided at the end of the race to take all his protective gear and do damn it before loading his quad on his trailer. Quad flipped on him, crushed his chest and died on the way to the hospital. We've also had a suicide. Our school had accommodations for students living far away. He jumped from the 2nd floor during the weekend. 2nd floor? Is the building next to the canyon or something? Tons of people die from losing balance and cracking their heads on concrete. 2nd floor is high enough to make a fall lethal. Which is just wild to me. I recently fell 7 stories and am relatively unscathed. It really just must be a multitude of factors like body position, luck, and surface you hit. What did you land in that you came out relatively unscathed? Landed in a field actually. It had rained the day prior a little so maybe that helped marginally. One of the dudes who hung out with the bad crowd got hit in the head with a baseball bat at a park by some rival banger and was put in a coma during senior year. They decided to pull the plug on him. 2 deaths. One was a kid I hung out with at school sometimes. Not close. He committed suicide, and nobody cared at all. I don't think anyone even knew besides myself and his family obviously. Teachers said nothing at all. The other death was a very popular student who drunk drove speeding down a rural road, flipped the car and hit a tree. Dead. He had just started working at my job as well in a pizza shop for about a week. So, I knew him, but obviously not well. The entire school was in mourning. It was the total opposite of my school acquaintance. Kids crying in the hallways, an assembly to announce the funeral, teachers would let kids out of class early, etc. Mostly kids just faking it for attention. I only felt bad for his actual friends, some of which I do call friends myself. His mum went on a crusade to try and get teens banned from driving cars. It wasn't a popular idea. His mum went on a crusade to try and get teens banned from driving cars. It wasn't a popular idea. If only there was a law against drinking and driving. It's a pattern I've seen plenty of times since. Child or teen does something dumb. Parents grieve, but blame anything other than their own kid. Tries to get X banned for everyone else. I'm far more pissed off when that succeeds. From what I've heard, he was legitimately a good person any other day. He just made an incredibly dumb decision that night to drink and drive. Knee-jerk rules making based on emotion usually causes this. Don't punish the whole lot, because one person fricked up. There were a few student deaths when I was in high school, but the teacher death that happened hurt the most. The summer before my senior year of high school, the band teacher died from an unexpected heart attack. It was a really hard time. Most of us knew him since 4th grade or earlier. Since my school district was tiny, he taught both elementary school band and high school band, and he was the one who gave the woodwind and percussion lessons. We got a new band teacher at the start of the year, very young, though he was married with a kid. He seemed great and supportive, and he pushed us to play our old band teacher's favorite song better than we ever had before. Then halfway through the year, he disappeared. Turned out, he was sleeping with a junior. We had to start all over again. Didn't see that one coming. I went to a school where the academic pressure was freaking intense. 2 kids killed themselves and cited the pressure as their reasons for doing it. Teachers gave us all lectures on not putting too much pressure on ourselves before assigning the usual crazy amount of homework. Please give an example of how much homework they gave. I probably had a good 6 hours of homework a night. College is much easier. It's usually not even that any individual teacher assigns too much homework. It's just that they assign a reasonable amount of homework and ignore that 6 other teachers are doing the same thing. Or that they assign homework that they think takes 1 hour, but it actually takes 2. I could do this in 15 minutes. Teacher. Oh, there were several. I guess most gruesome was the one where one of the teachers got stabbed multiple times by her ex-husband in front of the school gates. Multiple children ages 7-10 were watching. She collapsed, bled out and died on her way to the hospital. It took them 2 weeks to remove the blood stain from school grounds. Dude got 2 decades in jail. Apparently she kicked him to the curb because he wasn't all there. They left 2 beautiful children. I hope he rots in hell. He only got 20 freaking years? What the frick? Well, it's not like he had drugs on him. This happened when my mum was in school. A middle school girl told the gym teacher she couldn't run because she had a heart condition. The gym teacher made her run anyway and she died right there on the track. Man, that gym teacher should be ashamed of themselves. Gym teachers seem to do things like deny medical needs, but the fact that they'd go so far as to actually kill the kid is so sad. I mean, they're supposed to be improving your physical health. They better have at the very least been fired. When I was 16, one of the kids 2 grades younger than me got raped and subsequently murdered by a child molester one weekend. It was a big school, so I can't say I ever personally knew anything about her, but it shocked pretty much everyone that it happened. When I was younger, there was this Vietnamese family that lived a few houses from us. I was friends with their kids. Their father was an abusive unemployed alcoholic who would regularly beat his kids. One night he came home from drinking. He had a jerrycan full of gasoline which he proceeded to pour on himself and then he lit himself on fire. He was suffering from depression due to his employment status. The next few days in my school bus he was the talk of the school. I talked to the man's kids about it and they responded with "Yeah, dad's dead." I mean, it is kinda sad. Those kids had no love for their dad. You could see the burn mark from his melted sandals for a few days on top of the manhole where he burned himself. That's always been a large moral dilemma. You want someone out of your life, but death is too much. It's permanent. Also, you end up feeling like a terrible person just because you're relieved that someone's dead. Even if what they did was horrible and you are justified to be glad in a way, you will always feel horrible about it. Girl sat next to me and was my partner for French class. The next year, she was dating someone from another local school district who apparently snapped after a breakup, went to her house with a shotgun and killed her on her doorstep. He later got into a standoff with the police at his own house and shot himself in his room. The funeral was just awful. She had a huge support group of friends and almost the entire high school showed up to pay their respects. It's incredibly sobering being at the funeral of someone younger than you. She was a very sweet girl, incredibly quiet, but never would have hurt anyone or anything. When I was in 7th grade, one of 2 Latin teachers in our middle school committed suicide. Nobody knew how to tell us that at the time, so they just said she passed away. Nothing got done in any of our classes that day, and it was right before Thanksgiving break. They didn't confirm it was suicide until a few weeks later, but I was told from my drum teacher, who worked with the school, that they all knew. Apparently it just came out of nowhere. Nobody knew what she had been dealing with or was planning or even suspected anything, likely because she was one of the most liked teachers at the time. Seeing 7th graders consoling teachers was a wild sight, cause they lost a friend and co-worker too. So many of these stories are suicide sad face. My high school had 5 people die in separate intoxicated driving accidents. 2 brothers were shot a year apart, which is unusual in the quiet, suburban neighborhood. 1 kid raped and killed his underage neighbor, and several overdosed. I was only there 2 years. What the frick, where do you live? Sounds like Chicago to be honest. More like Gotham, New Jersey. More like Gotham, DC universe.